Hello and welcome to the Level Cap podcast, coming to you from the future past. I am past Brad, so you are listening to this in my future, where I am at Gen Con and am not actually doing this today. So hello from the future past. I guess that's the past future. I don't know. These time travel things always throw my head off. I need to play more Blaze Blue. Anyway, with me is my wonderful, exciting, otherworldly, astonishing, and completely remote podcast companion,
Wow.
Marco DeSantos.
What that intro was so confusing. It was like watching Level Cap podcast Days of Future Past. So what actually happened was they sent Brad at Gen Con's mind into this time when we're recording this podcast. So Brad, who's talking right now, actually knows what's happening at Gen Con right now. And he's here.
No, it's the past future. I'm projecting my mind to the future to Gen Con. I'm relating events that will certainly happen at Gen Con back to you in the past. It's the reverse. It's like Days of Past Future.
So I see.
Yeah.
So you're actually going into the body of future Brad and then knowing the events there, and then now you're going to relate to us the events now. So, future past Brad, past future Brad, what did you eat for breakfast on the first day of Gen Con?
It's really tough to grab a good meal at Gen Con, so I had a Cliff Bar that I packed with me in my supplies. It's very important to pack lots of Cliff Bars, especially like fruits and grains, because even when you can get food at Gen Con, the only food that you're really able to find is like oily pizza and or oily sandwiches, and so you got to get your vitamins and fibers.
So the bars are a good idea.
Yeah, bars are the best idea, and bottled water, absolutely,
and a face mask. And hazmat suits and
your muscle car with guns mounted on the top.
Oh yeah,
and some silver spray paint in case you need to be witnessed, and
a sawed-off shotgun.
Yeah, and sawed-off shotguns. All your wasteland survival gear. Actually, we didn't make it to Gen Con. The world ended immediately, and it was like Mad Max world.
Oh man, so does that mean one of your friends turned into an irradiated psychopath who just rides on the back of your car and jumps onto other people's cars?
Yep. And Gen Con has become one of the major factions in the world. It's like, it's like a Morton Joe's, but it's for nerds instead of choppers.
It's great. Their entire political system is actually built on this one Legend of Zelda.
On someone's D&D.
Yeah, exactly.
Results.
Like somebody was this Legend of Zelda cosplayer or something, and then they became queen, right? It's actually Hyrule now.
Yep.
And just, her vizier's Master Chief, and like, ironically, none of the Mad Max cosplayers survived. So, ironically,
okay. Indeed, ironically. Well, let's get back to the events of the past.
Yeah, let's go back to the events of the past, where we'll actually have a docket for all of you, where we'll actually talk about stuff that's related to Level 99 games, board games, Gen Con, or otherwise. Oh my goodness, Brad. What was that intro? Oh. That was the future.
That was good. That was good. Yeah, that was that. This intro is the future. Expect more like it.
Yeah, expect more like it. So, Brad, let's move on to our next segment, where we talk about our Game Club game of this week. So, Brad, can you give us a small taste of our Game Club game for this week?
Okay, well, so you are probably, I feel awful saying this, but I think you're probably too young, and I think probably it also has to do with being in America, that you would never have played Castle of the Winds.
Nope.
Is that true? Okay. So Castle of the Winds is an old roguelike dungeon explorer that was a shareware title, and it was widely available in the early 2000s, late 90s, kind of the start of the computer. Actually, probably closer to 95, the mid 90s, like the start of the computer gaming age, where it was first becoming like mass market available. Anyway, Castle of the Winds. I played this game all the time. It was great fun, but I never really knew what it was about. I would just run around and kill the monsters and die. Anyway,
Yeah.
our game club game for this week is Dungeons of Dreadmore, which is the kind of a modern
Modern
apotheosis
roguelike.
of that genre. Yeah, a very modern roguelike, and brings back some good memories of that. Although I
Mm-hmm.
think Dreadmore has more in common with NetHack than it does with Castle of the Winds. That's what I always am going to compare it to.
I see. I see. Well, this is going to be interesting because actually, I think Dungeons of Dreadmore was one of my first roguelike games. Like actual real roguelikes,
Well,
not
you're pretty
ro-
lucky because the rest of us did not have such great graphics to work with.
Yeah. Oh man.
You got to Google search for Castle of the Winds and
I'll
see
do
what I'm
that right
talking
now.
about.
Castle of the Winds. Oh, I see. Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
yeah.
Hey,
So
it's
this
not that
is
bad. Okay, like
with a
I
little
played
like
some.
MS Paint stick figure guy. Like, so this is what we played back
Yeah.
before we had all these cool graphics.
Oh man. Well, at least it wasn't like back in the olden days where everything was literally just ASCII characters. So
Yeah,
at
yeah.
least
So that was NetHack. Everything was ASCII characters.
yeah, everything was ASCII characters. So Brad, Dungeons of Dreadmore, modern roguelike. It's very tongue in cheek. Like it knows it's a roguelike. It makes all of these very germane references. For a game that basically is very old fashioned. Um, if there's anything that I really like about Dungeons of Dreadmore is that it doesn't take itself seriously at all, and doesn't
Yeah,
take it
I
seriously
mean
at all.
it's certainly a comedy game. I think that they knew that going in. They made all the flavor text is great. All of the references are great. The monsters like say mean things to you, which are kind of silly. Like it's just a fun game.
Yeah,
And and I think they carry along that tradition pretty well. It's a lot more. It's certainly the most comedic of the roguelike games I've played.
yeah, because I don't think
Like
any other roguelike tries to be funny.
yeah, like NetHack and Castle Ones, they take themselves pretty seriously.
Yeah,
I think NetHack is a little silly, but yeah, and so the game is really cool. It's streamlined in a way that makes it pretty easy to go pick up and play. Actually, like the way that they give you your skills, the way that a lot of skills in the game just work. Like you can roll
yeah.
up a fighter and you'll only have to cast like one spell the entire game, and you just go through and hit stuff with your sword and explore and kind of learn what the world is about.
Well, or just read up on all the memes slash jokes that are in the game,
Yeah,
because the lore in the game is practically non-existent. But
yeah,
speaking of the gameplay and rolling up a character, what makes this game really interesting, and I think the quote unquote innovation that this game makes that old roguelikes didn't have is the skill system. So before you actually make your character, you don't decide on their stats. You don't decide on a lot of things. The only things you can decide on are skill sets that the character goes into the dungeon with. So you can roll up to like 6 or 7 skill sets, and each of these things can help you with your dungeoneering. Some of them are like pyromancy, some of them are like smithing, some of them are like proficiency with swords, proficiency with stabs, proficiency with daggers, dual wielding. Some of them, of course, because it's a joke game, get crazily stupid, like vampire, vegan, communist, banker. You can be what's other stuff? You can be a fleshomancer or something, but you can
yeah,
like
yeah. Like there's a bunch of different like, but it's like class based, and it's not like pick a class or a dual class. You pick like 7 classes basically, and that's what your
yeah.
character is made up of. But these are the 7 skills you get for the whole game, and all you can do is level up in those skills. And it's different. Like previous roguelikes have been class based,
Mm-hmm.
but but this one gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of what the characters, what kind of skills you can bring into the dungeon and how you want to build.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it that's what makes it really good. because there's always a new build to try. There's always a new strategy to think of. Actually, I got a lot of Diablo vibes whenever I played Dungeons of Dreadmore. Because every time a character of mine died, or every time I got bored with a character, I would have a reason to play the game again. Because there were like a billion other skill combinations I've never tried, and it just always left you with more to explore. And I think that's something that Dungeons of Dreadmore does that a lot of roguelike games fail to do really well, because a lot of roguelike games tend to drag out its replayability by just making stuff RNG. You know, like the equipment you get's RNG, the layout of the dungeon's RNG, monster spawns are RNG. But on top of all of that, Dungeons of Dreadmore gives you this layer of player choice that allows you to modify your strategy regardless of what the RNG of the dungeon's like. And that makes it way, way more fun to start the game of Dungeons of Dreadmore. And it makes it one of my most favorite roguelike games ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is quite good. And I would you say you recommend this one then, Narco? I assume that's a guess from what you're all saying.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Am I like prattling on too long? Gosh, I love
No,
it.
no, it's just I think I don't have much more to say about it. It's really good. It's definitely, it's definitely a roguelike, and it knows that, and it plays really strongly to that. And if you know the genre and you think you're gonna enjoy it, then you probably will.
Yeah. I highly recommend it. As someone who, well, I wouldn't say that I'm a roguelike pro, but I like playing roguelike games. It's one of my favorites. But before we move on to our next segment, Brad, can I just say a little bit here for a minute or two and ask you about two things?
Sure.
What's your favorite gag in the game? And what's your favorite build that you've played?
Well, it's been a long time since I seriously played Dreadmore.
It's fine.
But I really like the loot fisk. So apparently there's the developers are Norwegian, and there's no secrets about this. Like they drop references to Norwegian culture everywhere they can. And they're kind of ham-fisted about it. They're like, "Hey, I bet you wanted more Norwegian culture. Here it is." But one of the things that can happen is that you just like there are whole rooms of loot fisk that spawn, and it's like the worst consumable in the game. But you have so much of it by the end that well, anyway, I think you can offer it to some deity or something later, but I never get deep enough in the dungeon.
You can.
Yeah.
It gives you equips.
Oh, okay. So there is a purpose to all the loot fisk. But yeah, as far as the like builds go, there's so much to do in this game. Like I usually play a mage, because I find I like the complexity of all the things a mage can do. But in Dreadmore, the world gives you so much to do that I kind of just want to play a fighter and
left click things to death.
Yeah, like click on things, because the like the craft, there's so much to do with the crafting system that all you have to do is take like one crafting talent and one magic talent, and you'll have plenty to do throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I like that. My favorite joke is when you download they have like 3 DLCs or something, but when you download them, you actually buy, quote unquote, this free DLC that comes along with them called Horse Armor. I kid you not. It appears in your inventory, and then you equip it, and then nothing happens. Because you equip it, and then the dialogue box on the bottom says, you equip the horse armor onto your horse. Too bad your horse is outside the dungeon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And of course, that's a rag on, like, what was that, Skyrim?
I think it's Dragon Age. It's either Dragon Age or Skyrim. But yeah, one of those, like, the first DLCs in one of those games was armor for your horse, and
was armor for your horse.
I think it's Skyrim, and horse armor is so bad because you go through horses like nobody's business. Unless you get the one magic horse in the game, it's like if you want a horse, you just steal one. You don't even bother going back to wherever you left your last horse.
Exactly. So it's hilarious because it goes like, it's as useless as the other horse DLC. And then my favorite build is being a vegan vampire who was also a communist. I was a communist vegan vampire. Mm-hmm. So it was a very interesting build because vampires can't eat food because they have to feed on live animals. But I'm also a vegan, so I can't kill live animals.
I think that the fun of that build is just saying it. What does communism even do for you?
Communism gives you a lot of defensive buffs. So,
Uh-huh.
like when you get hit, the enemies get affected by the eastern northern winds, and then yeah, because communism, right? Russians, and
I
you
guess.
start off with like a winter coat, which gives you bonus defense, and the final skill build of the communists. If you max it out, the final skill gives you the recipe to craft a nuclear bomb.
Uh-huh. I see.
So yeah, it's the fastest way to get the nuke in the game.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, so if you listen to any of those words and you found any of the things that I just said interesting, and of course, if you want to be a vegan vampire yourself, get Dungeons of Dreadmore.
Well, cool. Well, that it is quite a game. Quite a game.
All right, so Brad, now that we're done with dungeons, let's go back to school, Brad, because we will continue our streak of Argent characters as our character of the week. Brad, tell us who our character of the week for this week is.
So our character of the week for this week is Riflam Lenshier, who is the technomancy candidate for, or one of the two technomancy candidates for Chancellor. He is the candidate that appears in, he appears in the expansion, Masters of the University. He is also a playable character on BattleCon Online. And before we get too far into Riflam and Argent, I did want to say that Argent is still on Kickstarter. It's doing super great. Now that I'm peering into the future, I can tell you that we've already made $1 million and unlocked 1 billion stretch goals.
Oh man.
And everything is going great. This is because we were endorsed by John Cena and The Rock.
Oh, whoa, wait. Are you
And,
saying that one of our
and
candidates is now
also,
John Cena?
maybe.
Man.
Just say that crazy things happened when the world ended. Anyway, but yeah, Argent is on Kickstarter. You can check it out. But
Man.
Riflam, let's go back to Riflam. So Riflam he started out as a nature mage working under Mannheim, who is actually another candidate, was his research assistant. Eventually went off into the world to go on his own adventures, came back from those adventures, began teaching at Argent, and he actually runs the admissions program. So he travels around and finds hopeful and
Aspiring
promising,
mages.
yeah, aspiring, promising youth, and brings them to Argent to study.
So he's Hagrid. Okay.
I suppose he's kind of like Hagrid. Yeah, maybe. Well, you
I
can
will
see his
never stop
picture.
making.
You can see his
I will never
picture
stop
on
making.
the. Yeah, it's going to be a lot funnier when we see his picture on the thing, and you're like, oh, he's like Hagrid. Because
Yeah.
he's kind of this wiry guy in glasses.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's Riflam. He's very much a all about education. He's a very very much like a patron of students. Definitely would be a philanthropist if he was rich, but he's not. So he just has his own research. But he does what he can for the students. He's definitely one of the nicest candidates at the school.
So, in case you're a new listener, wild magic is a thing in the world of Indines, wherein every human, at least, has a thing, like a special minor superpower that they have. So, some characters can win games of skill 100% of the time. Other characters can estimate something with 100% accuracy, but they're always 5% off. So Riflam can.
So Riflam's wild magic power is that he can smell metal from a pretty reasonable distance, enough of a distance to be useful. So he can smell when there's metal nearby and can identify what metals they are by smell. May actually be kind of a useful power if you're an alchemist and you can transform metals and are looking for rare reagents and stuff.
Which he is, so that's pretty useful. So I really like this concept of the wild magic because I always love the concept of making quote unquote useless superpowers. You know, it's like in a world where some people can have super strength, magic that blows up cities and all that stuff. One guy can smell metals. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So this is a game that my friends and I used to play in high school, wherein we would come up with mundane/useless superpowers. So some of my favorites were you could play dead, but only for a second. And what was the other one? You could talk to feet, like stuff like that. It makes no sense.
That feels pretty RNG. You could get that on. You could make a generator for those.
Man, that would be great.
Maybe I should.
Superpowered.
But yeah, like it's neat to have everybody in the world have some kind of weird ability. Or I don't mean it. Of course, it fits with the theme of the world, because there's magic everywhere, and it just kind of naturally saturates in everything. But it also fits with the like the kind of special snowflake theme that all the characters in Indians have. Like everybody is somebody.
The main,
like yeah,
everybody's the main character of their own story.
Yeah, and that's kind of the feeling that I wanted to bring to life with this world, is that if everybody's their own main character, even people whose primary appearance is in terms of other storylines that they're part of, they do have their own plots going on, and they do have their own goals and everything.
Yeah, sorry. I think the main poster boy for this is Lackey, right? Disposable Dave.
Yeah,
who is literally just a disposable grunt, but even he has magic powers.
He has the best magic powers.
He never dies, right? That's his magic power. He never die.
He always, well, it's not that he can't die, it's that he always miraculously survives.
So he's like the best red shirt.
Yeah. So he's kind of like ultimate red shirt, and he always gets out of whatever he's in. Anyway, so Riflam is a really cool character that is kind of made possible by BattleCON Online. Riflam's ability is that he has antis that modify his own cards. So he can patch extra power or extra defense or stun guard. Like he can adjust the stats on his card as he fights. So his kit is continually changing, and it makes him really hard to predict.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really neat. And so he starts like shifting power and speed around between his cards, and then he can build either a really consistent rotation, or he can build some extreme power speed attacks, like attacks that just have everything going for them.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. I read some of his cards. I've never actually played them, but I read some of his cards. Like one of his bases, his unique base actually has the ability, like it starts off really bad. It's something like 1-1-1 or something like that, and that's a really bad stat line, right?
Yeah, the worst.
Yeah, but the base's ability is that every one of the modifications you put on it gets doubled. So instead of just adding 1 power, you're adding 2. Instead of adding like 2 priority, you're adding 4 or something like that, right?
Yeah, and most of his transfers are like equivalent exchange. Like you give -1 to your style and like +1 to your base, and so like he can like his base allows him to break that equivalent exchange rule and get big bonuses.
Oh wow, is this so? He's Full Metal Alchemist, the character.
Yeah, definitely. A surprising amount of Indians is inspired by Full Metal Alchemist. It's one of my favorite shows.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh great. Oh, now that you're saying it, like Carolyn's Ahuimankalai, and oh no, it's all coming. And then like you have the guy who's like half robot, half something, and then that's like Cesar, and then Brad, well, oh no, what have you done?
I didn't actually think that far. I was just thinking specifically of the alchemy that they use. And Carolyn. But yeah, I guess there are other. I mean, everything feeds into everything else. There's a bit of Castlevania in there too, of course. So
yeah, of course, a lot of Castlevania, probably.
But you know, anywho.
Before we end this segment, can you talk a little bit about technomancy/alchemy?
Yeah. So technomancy is one of the departments at Argent. It's a major magic study in Indines. There are 3 branches for technomancy, like the other arts. There's alchemy, mechanics, and artifice. So mechanics would be building machines. So it's kind of like what Clive or what Cadenza has, like those kind of power sources. Whereas artifice would be someone like Runica, who has a bunch of magic tools and weapons. And then alchemy would be somebody like Riflam or Lixis, use of chemicals and poisons and stuff. And then there's an advanced study in there, which is bioalchemy, which is creating homunculi and other life forms, and that's kind of like Carolyn. So those are the different kind of sub schools that are inside technomancy.
Yeah, I think this brings to light the fact that a lot of magic in Indines is actually their justification for science, and a lot of magic in Indines is actually very physical. A lot of people can apply magic physically, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Cadenza,
Yeah,
Cadenza
like
doesn't apply magic with lasers, right? He punches you. That's what he does.
yeah, but he has he has a magic power source so that he doesn't run out of energy at any point, and he can put out more force than the scale of his body would allow him to. But yeah, like technomancy is kind of like magic for everyday folks. You don't have to be any kind of genius to use it. As long as the technomancer has done a good job, then everything that you need is packaged up in the device or the potion or the artifact or whatever.
So Voms could probably use quote unquote technomancy.
Yeah, it's one of the few arts that they can use. They still won't be affected by it. So like if like they can't use artifice, they can't drink potions, but they could make potions, or they could make technomagical machines. They can't make artifacts because you have to be able to do enchanting to make artifacts. But yeah, like they can make alchemical potions and stuff.
Right. So that's pretty interesting.
We should probably explain those are the magic immune people in Indians who typically can't use these powers.
Voms are immune to magic, but at the same time they can't use it. But this is interesting. Mm-hmm. This is why it's so interesting, because technomancy seems to be something that they can actually utilize, because they can, I don't know, throw a potion at something, right? Or make use of the artifacts that affect other people.
Yeah, so like Bainvir is one of the fighters in Fate, and he has a suit of cursed armor, and he's immune to the magic, so he's not cursed, but every time he attacks somebody with this armor, they get cursed.
Okay, and that pretty much does it for this character of the week. Again, that was Riflam, an alchemist, and the technomancy candidate for Argent, Masters of the University. If you found Riflam interesting, want to try Riflam out in Argent, well, Argent, the second edition, is still live on Kickstarter when you're listening to this. So please, check the Kickstarter link down in the description down below, and you will find something that may pique your interest.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brad, tell me about something. Are you ready to get some questions that you will have to answer?
That I have to answer?
Yeah, you do.
That's the point. This is America. You can't make me answer your questions.
Are you gonna plead the fifth?
I might have to plead the fifth.
But wait, I'm in the Philippines, so sovereign waters.
I see. I don't know what all this means, but let's ask the questions.
Yeah, in our not news, 99 questions segment, where I won't sing that song because I know it will hurt everyone's souls. Question number 1, Brad. Mm-hmm. Whatever happened to Frame Wars? Is it still in development? Does it have a tentative release or Kickstarter timeline?
So Frame Wars is kind of on a hiatus because Fabio saw Gigarobo and it did what he wanted Frame Wars to do, and so he's kind of looking for a new inspiration for it, for a new direction to take the series. So
I see.
I think that we will see Frame Wars eventually. It's just a question of kind of like when. I've got the okay to do a Frame Wars Exceed, so at the very least we can see all these characters in Exceed. But as for their own Giant Robots game, hopefully someday in the future, maybe even at Gen Con this week, I'll be able to convince Fabio to let me do something else with Frame Wars, because I do have some ideas of things I want to do with it that are pretty cool. I just got to get the okay and get him on board to do those things.
To do the art. So for everybody who doesn't know, Frame Wars is basically a giant robot mecha IP that Brad and Fabio have cooked up. It is another one of their brainchilds.
Well, and it's a little more than art too, because this is really Fabio's world, and he is going to be involved in the design of whatever we make as well, not just the artwork. So, so he wants it to be something that he is really excited about, and that's why I haven't been able to convince him just yet, because my pitching is not very great on new game concepts.
We'll work on that arm, Brad, and pitch better. Are you ready for the next question?
I suppose it doesn't matter. You're going to ask me anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, I will. In the same way that different planes could be considered to form a cylinder. So this is in reference to the world of Indines and how it is the world is flat in Indines and all the planes are stacked like a cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
Are there different cylinders of planes to allow conveniently for things like multiverses and alternate storylines?
Well, we won't talk about multiverses except to say that characters from Indians have appeared as Millennium Blades trading cards. So characters from Indians and Sellswords and Master Plan and Mystic Empyrean and all these things have appeared as Millennium Blades trading cards. So take that for what you will as far as multiverse crossovers go.
Spoopy. I like that answer. It gives them a taste, but leaves them wanting more. Man, you should write a book about giving people a taste and making them want more.
What kind of that would just be one line. That's all there is. Like
maybe a gift card.
Okay, let's move from a book to a gift card. My literary accomplishments are rapidly diminishing.
Well, I think you've written down like at least 20 something rule books in your lifetime, so you've written an entire world. So like, a book's not far away, right?
I've written a couple novels unpublished. But Seventh Cross is effectively going to be like a novel. So look out for that. There's a lot of story in that game.
Man. The more you talk about Seventh Cross, the more I start thinking that it's basically like Castlevania Mice and Mystics. And if it's anything like that, I'm gonna get super hyped.
That's kind of it's not an unfair thing to say. There's a little more narrative than there is in Mice and Mystics. Like you will encounter people and choices just about every other turn.
Wow. Oh, okay. Don't hype me up for it, because I can't have it yet.
It's pretty hype.
Don't do this to me. Last question. If you had the ability to include any licensed franchise to BattleCon, which would you like to see? So we've already had a question of which IP could you get, what would it be? But this one is, if you could make an entire BattleCon box for a licensed IP, what would it be?
BattleCon box for a licensed IP. I think that probably BlazBlue would be the
that's
the
a cheating
ideal
answer.
the
That's a
ideal
cheating
BattleCon
answer.
crossover because it was the original inspiration.
Yeah, but that's the cheating answer.
Why is
Brad.
that?
Because that's obvious.
Well, what if the answer to a question, just because the answer to a question is obvious to me, doesn't mean it's obvious to everybody, or else they wouldn't have asked.
That's true.
I mean,
so
it's there's not a lot of properties that have enough characters to make for a really good BattleCon box. Like you could do like Marvel and DC and a couple video games, a couple fighting video games, but there's really not a lot of properties that have like 20 plus characters that are combat ready.
That's true. But maybe that's just the challenge for us. What if BattleCon, cooking mama of Indians, right? And then like one of the characters is cooking mama and the other one is a carrot and the other one is a lettuce. See, it proposes a lot of design challenges.
This is why you don't do the concepts.
This is why you're relegated to making guides, Marco.
Yeah. Like, I'm gonna play Hikaru. Who are you gonna play? I'll play Lettuce. Wow.
Lettuce's unique ability is fresh off the grill.
Just stop. You're clearly losing it. Oh.
I'm sorry. Okay, so that's a no on my pitch.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's a hard pass.
All right, and that pretty much does it for our 99 questions segment, where we have answered your pressing questions. But from pressing questions to hot baked news that's delivered straight to your podcast palate. Brad, we are now at our News 99, where we will answer
right. Well, I have
pressing
some
questions from the future.
hot, fresh news off the grill / oven for
Nice.
your ear news palette, I guess.
Anyway,
Anyway,
for your ear pleasure.
yeah, there's actually so actually we're at Gen Con. So the news is Gen Con, woo! Woo! But
Woo!
the real big news, I Can't Even with These Monsters is out this week. Sellsword's Olympus is out this week. Millennium Blades Mini Expansion 6 Professionals is out this week. We have 3 huge Gen Con releases. Trials is going to be in the next 2 weeks coming out, along with Murderum, Jin, and Bariti promos. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming out in August. This is probably going to be our biggest release month this year, with these 4 games coming out. But let's go through them one by one. I can give you the lowdown. So I Can't Even. I Can't Even with These Monsters is a drafting game by designer Daniel Solis and artist Charlie Bates. It is a kind of set collection / drafting game. The key rule is that the player with the highest odd numbered score wins. So at any point in the game, you are only 1 point away from just losing completely.
Wait, isn't it even?
You have to have an odd score.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I thought it was even because the point of the game was that at the end of it all, when you have an even number, or you don't have an even number, you go, I can't even with these monsters.
Well, you're trying not to though, so that's good. That's good. That's the objective.
Okay, I see.
Anyway, no, your opponents will say, I can't even with these monsters, as they try to sabotage your score and make your score even.
I see.
It is very, it's kind of cutthroat. It's got a little bit of like Sushi Go or Dead Man's Draw or, those kind of games where it's very straightforward, easy to play. It takes like half a minute to explain how it works. But there's a lot going on, and it's very mean in the same way that Munchkin and Flux are a bit mean. It is you'll play down these monsters, and your opponents will be trying to pick up the right ones to sabotage your score and turn your score even so that you can't win the game. So at any given moment, even if you're way off in the lead, the wrong move can turn the game against you. So it's a very volatile game. It's very quick to play. Quite a lot of fun. We enjoyed it a lot in testing, and I think that you will too.
Oh man.
Yeah. Sellsword's Olympus. Yeah. Olympus is the sequel to the popular Sellsword's title, which debuted at Gen Con about 3 years ago, I think. So Olympus ups the ante with improved card designs, better rules clarity, and 50 new heroes and monsters, 4 new terrains. There's a lot to like in this game. The artwork is, Fabio's always done great, these great chibi artworks, but Olympus is even better. Like, these are probably the best chibi characters that he's ever done. And it's just a pretty game.
It backwards compatible?
Really it is backwards compatible with the original Sellswords. So all the cards, you can mix all the tiles together and use both.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I think that if you like the original Sellswords, you'll like this one even better. If you didn't play the original, this is a great place to start. It's very beginner friendly. But it's got enough depth for the advanced players to enjoy it as well. So that's Olympus.
So if you've never played Sellswords, I'll give you a 1-sentence explanation. It's Othello, but with abilities.
Yeah, if you played like Triple Triad back in Final Fantasy IX, and you were like, I wish this was a card game and actually good, then Sellswords is the game for you. Because it's like that, but it's a card game and actually good. It's not just.
Oh wow!
In Triple Triad, like, you just built a deck of 5 9-stars and you win. Like, in this one, it's a draft game, and so there is actually interplay with your opponent's cards and their decisions as you both draft from the same pool. So it's actually skill based and not just collection based.
I see. And can I do the next one? Millennium Blades?
Yeah, sure. Millennium Blades.
Millennium Blades Professionals. So Millennium Blades Professionals is the new mini expansion we have for Millennium Blades, and it will have a lot of awesome new cards. Specifically, 2 sets, if I remember correctly. There are 2 upcoming sets that include a lot of fun stuff. We have Mystic the Reckoning, and what's the sports set called, Brad?
It's called the sports set.
Oh my god. Okay, that's why I couldn't remember the name, because
it's
literally called.
It's actually called the sports set.
Yeah, and we also have 2 new player characters. I can't
Yeah.
pronounce their names though.
Grelin Alcartone, famous chef, and Pro Tour von Grand Prix,
Oh, they're
a tournament organizer.
yeah, and their powers are fun. Pro Tour can have sponsored cards. It's all funny. It's all hilarious, and of course, Mystic the Reckoning.
The Magic the Gathering parody set, and we got some
Man.
some pretty heavy-handed spoofs for you in this one.
Yeah, and you even have that one card that duplicates itself.
Yep. There's the
And I'm like-
duplicate. There's
Oh
that
my gosh.
Ursa Deckwalker is just this giant bear.
Yeah.
There's
just-
Necropotence, which is a Japanese cat character, doing the
Oh my
Necropotence pose.
Yeah,
There's a lot of fun stuff in this set.
yeah, and they will all go very nicely with your Chase the Prize sculptor.
Yep, indeed. It is. It's one of the most fun sets that we've done. So I've quite enjoyed it. This set was actually directed by Ithri, who is big Millennium Blades fan, but also plays a lot of board games and did reviews for board games way back in the day. So I asked him to put together this expansion, and he put together these two sets. And they're really cool sets. They explore a lot of neat mechanics that the base game hasn't yet. So they really offer something brand new to players.
So if you want to get in on that stuff, get Millennium Blades Professionals and feel like a pro yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's everything. We covered all the things. Aside from the ongoing news that Argent is still on Kickstarter, Brad is still developing Seventh Cross, Imperial. Spells and Steam still scheduled for later in this year. And
Marco is making Pixel Tactics Online videos, balancing
Yes.
Pixel Tactics Online. Pixel Tactics Online is about to come out in a few, the usual.
few weeks. Yeah.
Oh man! And to celebrate the release of Pixel Tactics Online in a few weeks, we might have something on the blog that a lot of you might want to look at. So I won't spoil the surprise. Just look at the blogs. If you're on
I'm
YouTube, look at
excited.
the blogs.
What's the surprise?
It's a contest.
Oh, okay. It's a surprise contest.
It's a surprise contest. Boom, you didn't know. Like, what's happening in August? What national holiday is there? Pixel Tactics Online's coming out. That's the holiday.
Yeah, we'll call it Pixel Pixel Tactics Day. Amazon did it. Why can't we?
Exactly. We can just declare holidays
Mhm.
for no reason. And like
You
maybe
can.
some hey, can you go to the mayor of Albuquerque, New Mexico and ask him if you can make it like an actual New Mexico Albuquerque holiday?
Well, there's actually a longer process involved in that. You go to there are companies that keep track of holiday registries, and then people decide if they want to promote different holidays. But every single day of the year, there's actually 20 holidays going on. It's really kind of fascinating because there
Wow.
are people whose hobby, the same way we play board games, they just sit around and make up holidays.
That's awesome. I'm gonna
yeah.
quit board
You
games.
gotta
I'm
go
gonna
look.
do that.
You gotta go look that up. But it's apparently a hobby people have, and they just make up holidays, and and some of them make it to big holiday registry books, and some of them are used for commercial advertising or by different governments or whatever.
That sounds great. So Pixel Tactics Day. Come on, guys. If any of our listeners is secretly the mayor of Albuquerque, New Mexico, you got our backs.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for this episode of the Level Cap Podcast. I have been your future past host, Brad Talton, and joined by my past only co-host,
Marco DeSantos.
living in the
Sad.
past, man.
Man, I'm living in the past. I'm so 2000 and late.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us this week, guys. I hope you're having a great time at Gen Con, and as always, happy gaming.
Happy gaming. See ya. Bye-bye.